Welcome back, everybody. Your host, Robert Taylor from Wonderscape Studios, continuing on with this interaction system tutorial. Um, so, for those that don't remember where we left off, we set it up to where we recognize the actor that we hit. We had set up a print string so that we could see all that. Um, we're going to continue on from there. One thing I forgot that we need to set up. So open up your BPI interaction, so the interface. We need to go to look at. Two outputs need to be added, and I completely forgot to have us add them. Hit the plus sign, change this to text, and then when you hit the plus sign again, a second text will show up, so you don't have to read, so that they're both text. The first one you want to be player action, and the second one you want to be interactable name. Once you have that, go ahead and compile and save, and you can close it. So here we are at the test object. We don't need this right now. We can close it. What we do need is the interaction component, which we'll deal with in a moment. But the first thing we're going to make is a widget. So what we shall do is we're going to right click. I like to keep everything UIYs into its own folder. Eventually, this will look a lot cleaner. It's not even that dirty to begin with. But anyways, new folder, UI. Open it up, right click, user interface, widget blueprint. Click user widget, W for widget, and I'm going to name this one interact message. And here we have it. We're going to open it up. I'm going to make this bigger here. The first thing we're going to want to add is a canvas. For those that aren't aware what it is, first make sure you drag it on. Either drag it onto here and release, or drag it directly here till you see the blue and release, and it shows up. For those that don't know what a canvas panel is, it helps make sure that everything within it stays in its general location no matter the size of the screen. So if you have something centered, if you didn't have a canvas panel and you had it centered in 1980p, 1980 by, you know what, let's just do this. Right here at 1920 by 1080p, but I have a widescreen. It might not necessarily be right here, because widescreens are thinner, it would then show up down here. It would still be centered, but it would be down here. Then if you have a squared one, it could be up here. It moves things around. So that's why you want a canvas panel. Because it would then also save you from things that are right here or closer to the center when you have a widescreen. That way you don't have to worry about it. So the next thing we are going to want is a border. So I'm going to place it right in here. And for the border, we're going to want to change a few things. The anchor, we're going to want to have center bottom. Now, if you hold down Control and click, it'll also move the box down there, or whatever else you're anchoring. For this one, it's a border box. For the position X, I'm going to keep it at 0. For the position Y, I'm going to set it to -200. As for the size, I'm going to have it at 400 and 70. Now for the alignment, as far as the X goes, I want it at 0.5. And it's going to put it directly in the middle, as you can see. It's now perfectly middle. And for this one, I'm going to place it at 1. It puts it a little higher, which this is where I wanted it initially. If I put this back down to 0, it keeps it above the screen by changing the offset to 1. Whereas at 0, it would now be below the screen. So let me change this back. Alrighty, the next thing we're going to want to do is we want it to fill horizontally, and we want the vertical alignment to be centered. And that'll make sense in a bit. So the next thing, here in the brush, we're going to want to go to Tint. Click on it. I'm just going to make it all black. Again, you can change it to whatever you want. I'm going to change the opacity to 0.7. Again, do what you want. Then in the draw as, I'm going to change this to a box because we don't need an image, so might as well keep it that way. The final thing we're going to do to this is we're going to name it. I'll just name it up here, but you could also double click right here. There we go. But anyways, we're going to come up here and I'm going to name it order message. And I'm going to tick this variable. Now the next thing we're going to need is a text. So I'm going to place it directly in here, and as you can see, it is beautifully placed directly in here. Well, what you will notice is there's no anchor, and that's because its anchor is the anchor of its dad or its mom, however you want to see it, its parent. Within here, now that we have the text selected, we want to verify that it fills horizontally and its vertical alignment is centered, which it is, which is great. I'm going to change the font size to 14 because there's essentially going to be a sentence in here. And I will then set, where is it? This to be centered. Finally, I'll come up here and I will I will name this text message is variable. Now there's one thing I forgot to do in the border message, so let's come over here and we're going to come down here to visibility and we're going to change this to not hit testable, self and all children. Compile and save. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to come in here. We're not going to do anything with this. We're going to leave it here though, and we're going to hit the plus on the function. And for this function, we will name show message. Oh. Now in some show message, first we want a branch, so hold down B, click, put it in there. And then we want to make sure we have a return node here. Just clean code, it helps send it back to where it needs to go. That's why it's called return node. Now for the condition, we're going to want to get the border message. Control click. We'll control drop. Drag out of it and type is visible. We're going to place that right in there. So if it is visible, it's going to go to true. If it's not visible, we're going to want to get the text message. Drag out. Set text. We want to set the text of the set text, not set text message. Make sure you select the right one and place that in here. Now the next thing we want to do is pull out of in text all the way to show message. Let it go, and now it's in there. I'm going to click on here real quick and change this to message. Sorry, I like to clean as I go. Let's do this. If you highlight everything when it's not lined up how you want, and then you click the Q button, it will line it all up for you. Now the next thing we want is the border for the message. We're going to pull out of it, set visibility. We want to set it to not hit testable. And then finally, we want another return node. I like to compile and save after I do things like that. Now we're going to want another function called hide message. And then in here, it's quite simple. We just select border message, drag out, set visibility to hidden, and do a return node. Now, there are many ways that we can do this. having the message show up and disappear. What I'm doing here, the message will always be on the screen. Always. And although it's always on the screen, we don't want to always see the message. So it's going to automatically hide it from us. And then when we need it, it'll make it visible and show the message it needs to show. The other way to do it is to get a reference to it, store it, and then every single time you interact, add to viewport, and then every single time that it leaves, remove from parent. I'm not really sure the difference in performance for it, but because of how consistently this widget is utilized, for me, it's just makes more sense to set it up this way. So let me show you what I mean here. Again, just going to hit compile and save for my own sanity. We can close this. We are now done with that. Now, in the interaction component, in the event graph, there's a couple of things that we need to do, because otherwise it's not going to work. So when we drag out of here, we're going to do create widget. Sorry, let me zoom in a bit more for those that need to see better. In the class, interact message. Keep the owner how it is. Now here, I'm going to right click, promote to variable, and I'm going to name it message widgets. Now, this doesn't need to be seen by anyone ever. So I'm going to check mark it, and I'll set up a private category. So that's where it goes. With that in mind, we need the look at actor. We don't need it there, but for, organization sanity, that needs to be placed there since I'm thinking about it right now. And then we come over here and type add to viewport. Make sure you plug that in. Now, as it stands now, when we hit play, here it is. Shows up. It stopped. We need to make that not happen, and we will in a moment. The next thing we need to do, because I like to have the player be able to determine what their key binding is, and because we don't want to hard code what key it is, we need to get, the key. So to do that, right click, get input settings, drag out, get action mapping by name. And in order to, you need to make sure that it is, letter for letter. So for me, I would just come into my project settings, into my input, double click, copy, and paste, compile, save, open this back up. Then I'm going to drag out, type in get a copy, right click, promote to variable, and I'm just going to simply name it key. And the key I have set to private. So make it private. Come over here, private. Place that in there like this. Compile and save. Now we need to go into the line trace. There's a couple things we need to do in here. The first thing we want to do, and this is the easiest thing to do, is we are going to get the message widget, drag out of here. No, not drag out of there, silly me. Drag out of the message widget and type hide message. It's the first thing we want to do. Place that right there. Now, when I hit compile and save, come back out here, and we hit play, the message isn't showing. But it also isn't doing its thing right here. So let's go ahead and get that set up. Now, I remembered that I had changed something off screen. I changed the draw debug type to none because it is working as intended. So, don't need to see it anymore. Now we need to make this message actually show up. So the first thing we're going to do is from this, as a safety check, I'm going to pull out of here and hit equal equal. And I'm going to get the look at actor, hold down control to place it in here. We don't need to see all this, so if you hit that up arrow, it'll hide all of those. Have that set up like this. I'm gonna hold down B, place that in here, put that into true, and then set this into false. Into true, let's keep clean, return node. Huzzah. I want this straight. There we go. From here, we're going to pull out F look at. So we have that set up, and out of here, we're going to drag this all the way to the return value. Not cool, dude. There we go. And then we're going to come over here to the widget, place that in here. Oh, I didn't hold down control. And now we're going to do F, for me anyways, show message. And drag that in here. So this next part is a little complex. It's a little complicated, but it's well worth it to know. So here we have two inputs. We have two outputs, but one input. Not really gonna, merge well that way. There's a couple ways you can do it. The way I like to do it, the way that I'm gonna show you, is drag out, format text. So this is really cool. Anything that's placed within curly brackets will create a pin. And to best explain that, I'm just gonna show you. So first, press, open curly bracket, and I'm gonna type in the word key, close curly bracket, then 2, and then within curly brackets, player action, and then and then within curly brackets, interactable. That's it. Now when we hit enter, we now have, I like to keep things pretty tidy and clean. There we go. We now have 3 input pins. So player action, interactable name, interactable, the key. Come over here to key, get a copy of it, and we're going to break input. Need a little more space. Down here to key. Now this won't go directly in there. We first need to do a function. And this function is get key display name. We place that in there like this. Fantastic, right? But we are not quite done, because we now need to clean this up. And this needs to be in there, otherwise it's not going to work. Not sure why it disappeared, but it did. But I fixed it. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to drag this down, and from look at, come over here, F look at message. This will remove the highlight once we do it. Plug that into false. Plug this into true. And then the final thing we need to do is we need to remove what's been stored. So now we've emptied the look at actor and do a return node. Compile and save. Now let's test our work here. You can hit play. We're not seeing anything. We come up here. Boom. Press E to look at the test object. Now, If you can't remember where those came from, if I, come over here and click Edit in Blueprint so that it opens up the blueprint. If I come over here to the, why is it not showing? Here, come over to your interface, look at, I've forcefully put in here, so essentially I hard coded look at test object. And then we already know where we got the key from. The key gets set here so that we know at all times what the key is. So to best show that, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to change this to Q. And then I will change in the test object and just put object and type in here angrily, just for fun. Compile, save. Test priority. Press Q to languidly ook. I'm funny. At the object. And there you go. So now you understand how that works. So now that we have that working, the next thing that we will do will be next week, but I'll let you know now. We're going to come in here and, excuse me, we will clean this up so that it gives you the options of first person, third person, or the, what's the word I'm looking for? Or the top down / 2.5 view. Once we have that set up, we will then create a new a new function called sphere trace, and set that up here with an enumerator to get everything cleaned up. Once we have that cleaned up, we will then start working on the functionality of showing that the interactable works, so making it to where we can actually do something with this interactable, and show you how to make it to where you can change them on the fly per actor and not have to hard code things. And I'm assuming we're going to be able to get all of that done in the next episode. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or any ideas for the future, please leave them in the comments down below or join my Discord and share them there. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.